Governments love to say they work for your financial freedom. Their speeches promise stability, growth, opportunity. But when you look a little closer at the pages of history, a darker pattern appears. While leaving ordinary people without money, they use covert financial maneuvers to entrench their own wealth and influence. What's surprising is that these games aren't new. For centuries, they've been repeated in fresh packaging and under new names. The aim has never changed. Move wealth upward. Keep the majority dependent. Let's start with the oldest and best-known trick: inflation. When the state coffers are out of breath and spending outpaces what can be collected in taxes, the road forks. The first option is to say the truth plainly and ask citizens for higher and more taxes, politically risky, backlash-inducing, loud. The second is quiet. It cuts like an almost invisible blade. It thins the money. That is, by eroding the essence of the currency, it gradually reduces the purchasing power of every coin and every banknote in circulation. With this method, no new tax receipt arrives at your door, but the price tags at the store change. The shopping that fit into one banknote yesterday costs 2 banknotes today. No one feels the difference with a single decree, but through the rhythm of price hikes. Here lies both the allure and the danger of inflation. It works like a broad-based tax without making a fuss, and the ones who notice last are usually ordinary people. Ancient Rome practiced this method almost like a craftsman. When the treasury could not feed the cost of war, emperors saw one by one that remedies had run out. At that point, they reached for the essence of money. As military spending rose in the 3rd century, the silver in the denarius was sliced thinner with each reform, as if by a knife. The coin that had been nearly pure silver yesterday was reduced today to a shine mostly cast from copper with a thin silver plating on the surface. The state tried not to disturb the shop window, saying, "Everything is as before." But everyone carrying those coins alongside the facts in their pockets realized the burden had been loaded onto their shoulders. First, the price tags whispered, then they spoke loudly. Inflation rose, savings melted, wages couldn't keep up. Soldiers demanded higher pay against the rising cost of living. Merchants reluctantly accepted the debased coins or else demanded barter and gold. As the language of cash fell silent in marketplaces, trading goods for goods became the common alphabet again. This was a mechanism that left no notice on anyone's door reading tax increase, but took a share from everyone's pocket, a silent tax. Today, its name may be more official and its walls shinier. Imperial mints have been replaced by central banks, but the method leans on the same question. On whom do we place the shock? When the Middle Ages took the stage, the scenery changed, not the rule. This time, compulsory loans walked in from behind the curtain. In the courts of England, France, and Spain, kings summoned the wealthy merchants and guilds who kept the city's pulse. The crown will be lent money. On paper, it was support. In the halls, patriotism. In real life, compulsion. The meaning of refusal was clear: fines, confiscation, and sometimes worse. Sometimes the crown promised, "We will repay with interest," yet repayments were delayed, made in debased money, or never made at all. While the state kept its walls and palaces standing, merchants found little choice but to surrender their capital. The real trick was that compulsion was covered over with the words duty and loyalty. And this stage play, though never applauded, worked for centuries. Thus the line completes itself. The same pattern that began with Rome's hand that debased money continued with the Middle Ages tongue that forced debt, and in the modern age was polished with policy tools. Names, institutions, seals changed. Intentions rarely did. On one side, promises of stability and order. On the other, the masses who pay by spreading the cost. History tells us this: value lives not in the writing on paper, but in the essence of money and in the trust of those who hold it. When that essence is eroded, no matter the age you live in, a muted tax finds its way again. By the 17th century, the trick took shape not only in the methods, but in the system itself. Britain did not found the Bank of England in 1694 for charity. It needed vast sums for war with France. The wealthy tied their money to government bonds. In return, they were promised an interest stream guaranteed by taxes. On paper, it looks fair. But who paid those taxes? Ordinary people, with levies on daily necessities like salt, beer, and cloth. The rich lent to the state and collected safe returns. The poor financed those returns through their everyday consumption. Thus, a system of wealth transfer was made permanent under the name of national finance. And the model lives on today. The world's safest investment is still lending to the state. Those returns are secured by the labor and consumption of the public. In the modern world, we see that the tricks have moved not behind the ear, but into everyday life. Budget deficits are the most visible face of this. Governments borrow massively. Investors, banks, foreign funds buy bonds. Politicians present this as infrastructure, jobs, social programs. Yet much of the money flows to defense contracts, corporate subsidies, and bailouts. When the time comes to repay, rather than tightening at the top, taxes are raised, money is weakened by inflation, and social assistance is trimmed. On paper, the debt is for the people. In reality, the burden goes to the people, the profit to the bondholder. Then the bailout curtain rises. In 2008, banks wrapped toxic mortgages in paper and brought the system to the cliff's edge. Who paid the price? Taxpayers. Who won? The same banks, bigger and more concentrated. The formula was simple: privatize gains, socialize losses. Even pension/salary promises are a polished mirror. In the US, UK, Europe, people paid into state accounts for decades. They thought the money would sit in the chest. Yet in most cases, it was spent immediately. And in its place stood an IOU. Future taxpayers will pay when the day comes. When demographics age, the truth arrives under the name of reform. Benefits are reduced, the retirement age is raised, payments are thinned by inflation. Every stage runs on perception. Inflation equals growth, compulsory loan equals duty, national debt equals investment, bailout equals stability, pension cuts equal reform. Most people spot the trap late because they don't read economic history. In recent years, the trick has grown more sophisticated. Quantitative easing. Central banks conjured trillions from nothing and bought bonds and mortgage-backed securities. We prevented a collapse, they said. For the financial system, that was true, but asset prices soared. Stocks, real estate, bonds. And who owns these assets? Mostly the wealthy. While the benefit to the average household remained limited, the cost of living rose. The essence of the trick was this: money creation lifted the shield at the top. Below, the result was inflation and inequality. And then there are hidden taxes. Instead of raising income directly, a quiet haircut is applied through sales, fuel, and, most importantly, inflation. When prices run faster than wages, the gap is an invisible tax levied on savings and purchasing power. Governments love inflation because it is silent in the accounts and effective in the coffers. As your salary rises, you may feel richer, but if your expenses outpace your income, you are in fact getting poorer. This isn't a bug, it's the system itself. There is also the capture of regulatory institutions. On paper, rules protect the public, financial norms, safety standards, consumer rights. Yet history has shown time and again that powerful industries steer the very institutions meant to regulate them from the inside. Railroads in the 19th century, oil in the 20th, today technology and finance. This is the same lesson learned on the streets of Birmingham in Peaky Blinders. It pays better to control the referee than to play the game. From the outside, it looks like protection. For insiders, it's a flow of profit. War finance is also an old trick in new clothes. In World Wars I and II, citizens were sold bonds as a patriotic duty. People supported their countries. True, but these papers also became safe, profitable investments for the well-off. Their returns were guaranteed by future taxes. It hasn't changed in the 21st century. Iraq and Afghanistan were financed with debt. The winners were defense companies, banks, and bondholders, and taxpayers paid the bill. War is presented as a temporary emergency. Its costs last for centuries. Another weapon is complexity itself. Tax codes thousands of pages long, financial instruments that challenge even professionals, budgets full of hidden line items, all hide the flow of money inside a fog that ordinary people cannot track. In ancient Rome, debased coins were the physical trace of the trick. Today, balance sheets and acronyms serve as the curtain. The rule hasn't changed. If you can't see it, you can't object, because these tricks still work and are speeding up. Inflation erodes savings. Debts grow. When markets shudder, bailout packages kick in. As central banks manipulate the flow of money, governments load the costs onto the public by indirect means. The result? More work for less real wealth. More concentrated power for those at the top. History says something simple. These tricks always return. When Rome debased money, the people suffered. When kings forced loans, merchants lost. When modern states ran on inflation and debt, households paid the price. Ages change. The mechanism stays the same. The harsh truth: most people don't even realize the game is being played. They think inflation is natural, taxes inevitable, bailouts mercy. They listen to the official line instead of economic history. This is the strongest trick of all. A forgotten past opens the door to repetition. That's why financial education is resistance and economic history is a weapon. If you know the tricks, you are harder to manipulate. So what should be done? Look beyond the headline. When a stimulus is announced, ask who wins. When inflation rises, remember it is often policy, not bad luck. In regulation, ask who wrote the text and who benefits. Turn to real assets that can preserve value even as money erodes. And never accept at face value a system that says, "We're working for you." Systems protect themselves. History doesn't repeat verbatim, but if you don't understand it, it will crush you again. The real difference is noticing in time.